Hey, today's podcast, I think is going to be a really good one. It's something I feel a lot of families are going to resonate with and get a lot out of.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know family meals matter,
Yeah.
but we're often asked what to do when meal times don't go to plan, which is so normal
Yes.
with kids.
Absolutely.
So absolutely, meal times with kids can sometimes be challenging, but there are several strategies you can try to make them more enjoyable and less stressful. So here are some of our tips for handling mealtime challenges with kids.
Yeah. So first up, it's important to try and have some kind of a plan. As you head into dinner, it's important that you're feeling on top of things as much as possible.
Yeah.
If you're distracted, if you're not organized, kids pick up on this.
Yeah.
So I really recommend having a plan of some sort for dinner, even if it's as simple as planning what you're going to cook in the morning.
Yes.
So you can get meat out of the freezer or even, fit in some prep time ahead of dinner time, or maybe, put the slow cooker on in the morning was something I did a lot, particularly when my kids were really little.
Such a
I
relief.
kind of, exactly. Isn't it the best feeling to know you've got a slow cooker on the go? Because, at the end of the day, you can have the best plan in place, I think.
Yeah.
But kids are renowned for throwing curveballs at you.
Well, in life.
And life,
If
exactly.
you're working.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but when it comes to dinner, like when dinner actually arrives and everyone's screaming hungry, anything that you can do to save you going into the late afternoon or into dinner time with no plan at all is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And this seems so simple, but it's so impactful.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that run in the background that kind of really impact our day.
Yeah.
So if you think of how you feel when you have dinner sorted out, like when we're saying when you just know you've got that hot pot done.
Yeah.
I know for me it makes a big difference still.
Yes.
For me, I've never lived close to the shop. So if I hadn't thought ahead, which happened, and I hadn't allowed time for the meat to defrost, it became really stressful for me. It meant I was scrambling to get a meal together. I was less present to my kids and generally had a harried and not so pleasant evening. And even through the day, I would be thinking about...
Be in the back of your mind, wouldn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
So for myself, knowing that dinner is sorted out supports me to feel calmer and used to feel really important for my own well-being as a parent when my kids are young. So having a solid, reliable routine supported me and my nervous system as much as it did theirs. Well, I mean, they really hang off our nervous systems.
Yes.
So us being kind of as prepared and supported as we can be really supports them.
Yeah.
So my invitation to you is to create a consistent mealtime routine and aim to start getting prepared to cook and to eat at the same time every day. Our nervous systems, our little bodies love reliable, consistent rhythms. It supports us to relax when some aspects of life, like dinner time, are predictable and at the same time as much as possible. This is even more important if you're an anxious person or if you have anxious children. It's also really important to remember that in a family, we all respond to one another's nervous system states. So if you're stressed out, trying to scramble to get a meal together, your kids will pick up on this and their nervous systems will react to your stressed out state.
Yeah, always.
So it kind of leads to that, either a calmness coming into dinner or a craziness coming into dinner.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah, so as much as possible, empower yourself to be organised for dinner time so that you can approach it feeling calm and clear. For me now, it's really interesting. I start to relax as I make dinner. I mean, I know my kids aren't around my legs as I cook anymore. They're teenagers. But it's like a signal for me that my work day is over and now it's family time. For me,
it's a shift of perspective, isn't it? Really, more than anything, that's all that is.
Totally. For me, creating a routine has taken some discipline, but it's really paid off. I want to acknowledge we're all different. Like Georgia here is a natural cook, so I don't think...
natural planner as well,
and a natural planner. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I've been a wing it, fly by the seat of my pants person. So for me now, believe it or not, I feel best when I have a meal plan.
Yeah.
So once a week. So Georgia doesn't need that because she just can wrap up.
Yeah, I can definitely pull together a meal.
I that's a stretch for me.
Yeah.
I sometimes can, but it's stressful.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I'm relaxed when it's like, right, this is what I'm making. This is what, and I have a plan to follow, and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So once a week, I do it on a Sunday. I make a meal plan so that I know in advance what we're having. And I guess, again, like I said, I don't live near a shop so that I can make sure I have the right food. And I don't have to think about what meat to defrost that morning. I can just take it out and have it ready for the afternoon. And I guess for me, after all these years of being a parent, I've learnt to do the things that support me. And, oh, man, it makes such a world of difference.
Yeah.
So a reliable routine starts before dinner. It's important that you're also clear on expectations around snacks for your kids. I think this is really important too.
100%. It's so important that they're hungry but not hangry. And routine really helps to avert this hangry behaviour anyway. It's something that you'll definitely have to consistently tweak and adjust as they grow, because their nutrient intake changes and their appetites change so much. So it's not like they have the same thing to eat throughout their whole lifetime or the same schedule, but definitely having dinner at the same time or a similar time each day through various stages, supports your kids to know when food is coming. It supports their blood sugar stabilization. When a child eats regular meals and snacks, this keeps their blood sugars really stable, which just ensures that their mood and their energy levels are nice and even. So there's no kind of massive highs or massive lows. When they're high, they might feel really stimulated and hyperactive and unable to sit still at dinner time and to sit at the table. Or if they're low, they may their blood sugars are low, they may be like teary or zoned out or lethargic, unable to even almost decide what to eat. I know if my blood sugars get low, my husband knows this, don't ask her what she wants to eat, just get her food. Because if he says to me, what do you want to eat? Chances are I'm like, I can't make a decision. It's like I can't make that decision. And so our little ones are exactly the same. So,
it's so powerful,
you can't expect them to then sit and eat no matter how hungry they are. If they've tipped over into those low blood sugar levels, they're most likely not going to want to actually eat.
So what do you do for snacks?
So
you know how we spoke about kind of the snacks there, and you don't want them hangry. So how do you make sure
if we're approaching dinner and I can see my kids I'm thinking back to when they were little, and I could see that they were starting to tip over into the kind of hangry phase. I was pretty strict with snacks that I wouldn't let my kids eat a good kind of 2 hours or so before dinner. And I found, if they hadn't had a good protein-rich snack, then they were perhaps being stretched come dinner time. Again, if I was really onto it and choosing a high protein snack, it was fine. They could last like 2 hours up until dinner. But if I could see they were starting to tip over and they were perhaps complaining that they were hungry, I would give them something off of the chopping board that I was preparing. So if I was preparing some veg for dinner, some salad or something, then I'd just, hand them a carrot stick or hand them something that was part of dinner. I certainly wouldn't go to the cupboard and get, rice crackers or something like that out because I wanted to really start building their nutrition ahead of dinner. And, so it would generally be something that was highly nutritious that I was kind of preparing anyway. Or if it wasn't that, if I had, say, a slow cook on and, everything's already in the slow cooker, I would just get something like a carrot or a stick of celery or something like that, just that they could munch on, keep them going. Maybe a cube of cheese or some biltong would be something else that my kids love to snack on, or a meat stick, like a good quality meat stick.
Cool. Because that's it, the hangry thing. I know with my daughter, if she stepped into hangry, sometimes then and then she wouldn't eat anything because she'd kind of lose her 100%. Appetite.
It is, and it's a balancing act, like we said, because their needs are constantly changing, their appetites are constantly changing as well. So you kind of have to use your best instincts, I think, sometimes when it comes to determining okay, they're about to slip into hangry. Let's do something about it before we get there.
I'm laughing. My husband used to panic. Oh, yeah. Quick, get some food into her.
And also learning, like I know my son, he doesn't have a middle name, but we used to call him Jesse I'm Hungry Harding. So for me, my skill in parenting him was actually knowing when he was actually hungry, because his default, if he was bored, if he was tired, his default was always I'm hungry. Like I can remember my brother-in-law said, mate, that kid would eat his nappy. You just literally, he was always just one of those kids. He's just always moaning that he was hungry. So again, I had to use my best instincts. I knew that it wasn't possible that he was hungry and that he was just bored. I would have to just literally deal with him hanging off my leg, moaning at me that he was hungry, and try my best just to get dinner on the table as quickly as possible. So again, it's just, that's the skill required to be a parent, isn't it?
Totally.
Is learning your own child's needs, and
it is, and to read where they're at.
Yeah, when they're playing you and when they genuinely have a need, because there's definitely that mix between the two.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess what's really important is to stay calm and composed, and to kind of keep the big perspective in mind. Remember, it's one afternoon, one dinner time, no one's going to die, because it can be easy to lose perspective.
Yes.
And that if you do become frustrated and upset, step outside, take a few breaths, because us becoming frustrated and upset actually escalates everything, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
Try to be open and flexible. Remember that not every meal will go perfectly, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
There's that. I remember when my kids were little, and I had a lovely mentor that kind of said, just do the best you can. Yeah. Good enough is enough.
Yeah. But I also think noticing on the days that have worked really well, what you did perhaps differently to that particular day. That was one thing. And again, that's what made me really commit to having a firm plan when it comes to dinner, because I just knew if I was in a flap, like we began this conversation, I don't want to go back to the beginning again, but like learning from your mistakes as well.
So true.
And you're going to make them all of the time.
Yes.
And as I said, your kids are always changing the goalposts. So,
Yeah, but that's an awesome point to really see on those good days and think, gosh, what did I do different today? What was different?
Yes.
So that you can kind of bring more of that in to support you, to make it easier.
Yeah.
Because parenting's, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Make sure you're setting realistic expectations for yourself and for your child's behaviour during meals. Young children might not be able to sit still for long periods of time, so support them to build that up by staying at the table for longer. Make sure you engage them in conversation and that you kind of are inclusive with them. You kind of ask them about the food, and you make dinner time more than just about food. It's about connection as well. I think
absolutely.
That's really important.
Conversation is just so pivotal, and ensuring dinner goes to plan, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think also involving your kids in the process of planning and preparing meals, definitely when they have a role in making the food, they're more interested in eating it. I sometimes feel like a broken record when I say this, because it's so important, and it kind of creeps its way into a lot of problems. Like it's a solution to a lot of problems that occur.
Builds their self-esteem. It just does so many positive things.
So, I mean, that's kind of a tactic to ward off things ending up going pear-shaped at dinner. Making meal times, like Jane said, positive and enjoyable experience, avoiding using the dinner table for a place of discipline or negative conversations is really important, isn't it?
True. Yes, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And just offering your child choices within a range of healthy options. We love the buffet style eating, where you can kind of tailor a meal so that there are things that they're going to absolutely love choosing, and, you know, some things that perhaps they haven't tried before, or things that you would like them to eat that they haven't shown interest in, but still presenting those things. Them being able to choose from the buffet gives them that sense of control over their meal. So a buffet doesn't mean that you're literally creating a buffet. It means just, you know, having the food perhaps deconstructed or things in different plates. I never served salad on the kid's plate. It was always in a salad bowl, even though that sometimes meant one extra bowl for washing up. But it always gave them some autonomy over what part of the salad they chose. So, you know, sometimes they would pick through it and pick out the bits they really loved and leave behind the parts that they weren't so fussy or weren't so fussed on. But it was there. It was presented in front of them, and it just gave them that autonomy.
So that's massive for a kid.
Absolutely.
And for averting power struggles.
Mealtime, the mealtime drama's escalating, isn't it?
Totally. It's okay to make meals fun. I think we forget this. You know,
so much so.
In the school and work and the drone of, well, life can feel like a drone when you just, and it's like, we forget how precious time together is, and especially like it flies. I'm sounding like an old lady now, but man, that 18 years of my son has flown. And just bringing joy into the meal and making of the meal, the preparing of the table, the sitting down and eating together, joyful, and bringing some fun elements in there. Like with my daughter, she used to go and pick flowers to put on the table, and
my son used to love folding up just paper towel, but that was the napkin, and he'd fold it up, and sometimes literally it would be like scrunched on the plate. But he felt like he'd contributed by doing that. Sometimes my kids actually coloured in paper towel, like the napkins as well. And again, they'd contributed like your daughter did with the flowers. And the joy is sometimes, I think, difficult, particularly when you have a picky eater. You can get kind of bogged down in the stress of wondering if they're going to, you know, go head to dinner and push back or create drama. But
just the worry, hey, like.
Absolutely. But, you know, I feel like, again, that switch in perspective, just going into the meal, you're prepared, you're feeling relaxed, and making that conscious effort to make it joyful rather than stressful. And not fueled with emotion around, you know, pleading with them to eat something that they perhaps haven't eaten before, or keeping all emotion kind of neutral, apart from neutral to positive, really, and anything below neutral is not welcome at the dinner table.
That's it. Not making the whole meal focus around that picky eater kind of thing.
100%.
So you can be creative with how you present the food. You can tell stories or play nice soft background music. There's so much you can do to bring the joy back to what food's meant to be around. It's almost a celebration. Super, super important to minimize distractions during mealtime. So turn off the TV, because even that sound in the background, you know, like it distracts us. Put away any electronic devices
altogether.
Totally
not visible at all.
This always allows for better focus and connection. You know, like sitting, family meal, it's the food and the connection, both so important.
I was going to just say with the distraction, like I got into the habit of when I started my business, Well Nourished, to start with, I told myself that I needed to be checking in all of the time on socials. I needed to keep, you know, I was learning a lot about social media because I hadn't had social media before I started my business. And so all of a sudden I found myself bringing my phone to the table. And then all of a sudden my kids started bringing their phones to the table, and we never did this prior to that. So it is amazing how it's not okay even and then I can remember saying to my kids, hang on, no, there's no devices at the table. And I'm like, well, you've got your phone at the table, you know, and I use that poor excuse, well, I'm working. And it's like, well, no, I'm not. I'm not working. I'm sitting and I'm eating with my family, and I only get this one opportunity a day to do this.
Exactly.
So get over yourself and put your phone away.
I know. Yeah, so well
But
said.
yeah, I just wanted to say that it's easy. It's an easy trap to fall into, because I know that I definitely have fallen into that trap. And I suppose that really leads to the next point, with is just leading by example.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
And just demonstrating, positive eating habits with your kids, and children mimic the behaviour of their parents, don't they?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of us do have challenging relationships with food. And if you do and you want something different for your kids, it's really important that you get support on that for yourself, because kids do what we do, and I'm not saying that to freak you out, but it's important that you work on your struggles, and then that's the best way to not hand it down, kind of thing.
Yeah. Great advice. Absolutely. Encouraging conversations. I think we've already mentioned this, but just talking about your day, sharing stories, making mealtimes a social experience. And I can remember a teacher once saying to me, oh, we can tell that Jessie is a child that's been spoken with, not spoken to. And I kind of had to think about it, because I'm not a really chatty person at home with my family. That's just not me. I'm not one of those people. Chat. My mum is the person that's always talking, and I think that made me be more of a quiet, more introverted kind of character. But when I thought about it, I thought, all of our conversations take place pretty much around meal times, like our most meaningful conversations anyway take place around meal times. So that was obviously where she had picked up that, or got that observation from, was just from dinner time.
I think that's a really important point, that talking and talking to them as like they are
valued.
Valued, and not talking down.
No.
Not talking babyish, or just kind of getting their opinions and getting curious. Super important, if your child is a picky eater, to be patient. It can take lots and lots of exposures to a new food before they're willing to try it. And to be patient, and to not make a big deal about it. Just, hey, do you want to have another olive? Okay, cool. And then move on. And to acknowledge what is working, I guess, and to focus on what they're doing really well. Without, again, it's not about bringing emotion. Even like over the top positive, if they do something right, can be too much pressure for them. So it's just have a go at this, and just keeping everything as neutral as you can. And know when to stop. So really pay attention, or attune to your child's cues. If they're genuinely not hungry, which can happen, especially in that growing phase. Hey, when sometimes they're ravenous and you feel like, oh my God, they're eating so much. And then that growth spurt, they kind of stop. And this is, like you said, you've got to kind of tune into that parent intuition of where they're at. But if they're genuinely not hungry, forcing them to eat may create negative associations with mealtime.
Well, we don't force kids to eat. You can't force kids to eat, can you? It's just, we think we can force them to eat. We think we can coerce them to eat, but we're kind of kidding ourselves, really, aren't we, to think that we can force anything upon them.
I think it creates, like, I think of the way I was parented, and we were disciplined at the table, and there was a heaviness, and I was a really compliant kid. That's how I did my family. But so now, like I think I've spoken about before, like I will eat everything on my plate, because that was
I get
how it was, you know. But I remember my dad constantly saying, eat like a lady, and it was all about just
a lot of
manners
control and pressure.
And it kind of does take that joy out of it. So for all of us, I think we learned to eat everything on our plate and do it quickly to get away from the dinner table.
Yeah, okay.
Which is not what you want to set up. You know,
no.
oh, well, that's not what I want to set up.
Yes.
I want to set up where it's kind of, you feel comfortable,
Yes.
you're talking to each other, you're
You look
attuned
forward to dinner.
Yeah, and you're kind of trusted to know what your body needs.
Yes.
I think that's really empowering for a kid.
Yeah,
for you to go and educate them, like we've spoken about, that we need a balanced diet, we need all these things, but also give them that kind of choice to go, you know what, that's enough for me today.
Yeah. Yeah, and every child is unique. Yes. You know, what works for one may not work for another, just to make things that little bit more complex.
So true.
But, you know, just experimenting with different strategies to find what works best for your family and the children within your family is super important. So, yeah.
And to follow your knowing.
Yes.
Hey, as a mum, you know, like, and to really
tapping into that intuition. Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully we've given you some tips and strategies to avert chaos at the table. Yes. And, we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you.